Hey everyone, Tony Chips here from Chiappetta Shoes. This is Workshop Live. Today we got an F24 foot type, pronating like a mug. Dude's walking like Fred Flintstone. A lot of abduction, a lot of navicular rotation. We got a flat, flexible foot. Everything's wham, wham, wham. We have to help hold this foot up. Now, luckily, this customer is not experiencing knee, hip, or back pain. Some postural issues with the neck and the shoulders. I think that is potentially coming from the mechanics of the feet and how the foot moves when we're taking a step. There's a lot of slack in the system, not overly concerning in the knees and hips, but I think we can help out just long term. F24 foot types, we have a large rear foot valgus and a large forefoot varus. So there's a lot of rotation. With this customer, there's particularly the navicular and the first cuneiform bone are dropping down and rotating in. Not too much if you look at the custom orthotic and the contour that we have here. There's a good amount of shape that's built into this. So with how the foot is, the left side has much more deterioration. If you're going to compare the two, left versus right, left side is dealing with much more of a navicular drop, okay? Now, with this pickup, we're going to take it top down. We're picking up a set of orthotics. We have the Drew Aaron, nice lightweight but still extra depth shoe. We're trimming them up lengthwise. We are going to add a full medial wedge as well as a lateral wedge. Now, when we're dealing with a foot that abducts a lot or turns a lot to the outside, we want to make sure that medial stability is there. I'm going to go a little lighter on the right side because, again, when you look at that arch contour, the right side is relatively stable and structured. I'd say the right side is an F23 foot type, left is an F24 foot type. So I'm going to take these over to the grinder. We're going to do a little extra finishing work, and then we're going to get these modifications on. Let me take you over to the grinder real quick. And all right. Okay, so we got the orthotics ready to roll. Something like this could be just thrown into the shoe. Typically, when we make an orthotic, I don't like to overcorrect a situation. Our general rules when we're making an orthotic is we want to get you as comfortable as possible, as quickly as possible, with the least amount of intervention. Very important for an orthotic manufacturer to make. We work on an accommodative model. Accommodative model gives you really good contour out of the gate. You should be able to wear it 100% of the time if the shape is right and the materials are right. But modifications and corrections come after the fact. We always want to get you comfortable without creating a crutch. Very important. So, when we're looking at this situation, left foot navicular drop, F24. We're going to do a full medial wedge. I changed my mind. On this left side, we're just going to do a rear foot wedge. So we're going to just work with the back side of the heel. And we typically end right about where the navicular is starting. So on this right side here, right foot, we're going to do a traditional medial rear foot wedge, and on the left foot with the extra deterioration, we are going to do a full rear foot and midfoot medial wedge. Okay, that's going to be that side. So that's there. Now, with this left side, when you're doing a full medial wedge, I call this a full medial wedge, you always want to wrap it farther into the heel. A lateral wedge, which I don't like doing, there's plenty of videos on that, you end right at the center point of the heel. A medial wedge, you want to continue that more farther into the outside part of the heel. So you want to bring it about 2/3, 3/4 of the way to the outside. So on this side here, and you know, the fun part of this is it's like art class. The big thing being, okay, being as pronated as this left side is, what I do want to do is I want to wrap it up against the side of the orthotic as well. I want to give it some extra wall stability too. Now, typically, I like to keep things as unilateral or bilateral as possible. Whenever we're making a modification, we want to keep everything feeling as good as we can without making it feel too awkward from left side to right side. In this case, as we have a lot of extra deterioration, we're going to work two different spots. Now, because the foot abducts a ton on left and right, we are going to do a lateral forefoot wedge. Now, the forefoot wedge, you don't need a lot of material. We're using about 1.5 millimeters of EVA FM. It's about 70 durometer. And what I like to do is draw it down. We're almost doing like a first ray cutout. This is what I would consider a lateral wedge, okay? So, see that. We're bringing up the outside part of the forefoot. Now, this is thin. You don't always need a lot of material to accommodate something like this. A small, thin amount of firmer material underneath 2 layers of, you got 35 durometer and about 15 durometer, does a good job for us. Okay. Now, customers picking these up, we are doing this on the spot. Nobody else does it this way. That's why there ain't no better than Chiappetta. Got a good setup here. All right. We're going to get this glued up. I'm going to get that right side lat put on, lateral forefoot wedge. And we'll take a break at that point. I'm going to let this sit for a couple minutes. Because we're wrapping up against the side of this F24 lefty here, we do want the glue to cure properly, because if you don't, whenever you're wrapping something, it can peel very easily. So shitty orthotics and people that manufacture orthotics, they don't take their time and do a good job on letting the glue cure properly. So, all right, we're going to get this glued up. Nice even distribution. Perfecto. Now, this side here, get our rear foot wedge. And when you're doing a forefoot wedge like this, I like to draw it back farther than where the Mets are. You kind of want to start back a little bit and kind of wedge the foot a little bit differently. If you just start it right at kind of the break point of the end of the core supportive materials, you'll kind of feel that ridge a little bit. So it's important to draw that back and keep it a nice smooth transition. All right, perfecto. Get this glued up. That. And this modification Um, whether it's bilateral rear foot medial wedge or bilateral full medial wedge, combining this with a lateral forefoot wedge is really beneficial when we're dealing with a lot of abduction or turning to the outside. Um, when it comes to the forefoot, you got to be careful with not taking up too much space because you can end up just pinching the toes, and that's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to mechanically alter that external rotation. So when you're dealing with a lot of abduction is out, adduction is in. When you're dealing with a flat foot and one that rotates to the outside, you have this kind of really too much slack in the system. So what we're trying to do is support back end here and up front here. Guide you heel to toe a little bit more naturally, heel to toe. And sometimes when we deal with F24s, extreme amount of abduction, those gait patterns tend to be really stabby. This conversation, this customer is still taking good full steps, so that's a good thing. But when we have patients that have these short stabby steps, usually balance is complete mess. But we want to talk about helping the body take a nice full step. Center of gravity is balanced much better. So when you're taking these shorter steps, you're easier to fall forward. If you're able to support the foot and help you take a nice heel to toe motion, that center of gravity is much better for you. So we're gonna take a little break, be right back. All right, everybody, we're back. So we got an F24 foot type, extra large abduction. On the right side, F23, a little bit more stabilized and balanced. Rear foot is in pretty good shape. Small amount of pronation, but structurally relatively stable. All right, so when we're dealing with a situation like this, we're doing a pickup of a nice set of new custom orthotics. The person has not worn customs, always over the counter. Just had a conversation with this patient, and they've always felt better with like work boots, which when you're dealing with those real flat, flexible feet, ankle stability is nice. Work boots, most of them have metal shank. There's a lot of stiffness in them. Stiffness is a good thing. Everybody is going soft in the athletic world and everything else. Soft cushion is not the answer for everything. Sometimes feet need firm stability shoes. So on the left side, that's what we're dealing with, a large amount of navicular drop pronation, post-tibia tendon issues, not really any strain up the ankle, calf, knees, and hips are in relatively good shape. Posturally, that's where we really need to help out with. And we have shoulder and neck issues. So I think that there's a fair amount of support from the foot that should translate up into the rest of the body really nicely. Now, on the left side, the worse off side, we're doing a full medial wedge. When I say full, I'm saying rear foot and midfoot, and we're wrapping up against the side. And we're using a 65 durometer JMS J-Cork, I believe it's called. It's their firmer multi-cork material, and it's also the base piece of what we're using here. Again, we like stiff and firm for this customer. Now, when we're wrapping up against the side, we really want to hold the foot properly, and giving up some sidewall support is going to be beneficial from a stability standpoint. And this type of cork is heat moldable because it has a nylon component to it, I believe. All right, so we got that. Now, it's thin. This is a lateral 4-foot wedge. It's only about 1.5 millimeters thick. It's a EVA FM is what it's called. It's about 70 durometer. It's firmer. This little amount should help out. Now we can go thicker, but you always want to be careful. We're not taking up too much space in that toe box. And we always want versatility. The Drew Aaron, it's a real deep shoe that can accommodate more for sure. But with what we got going on here, this should be a really good starting point. So, customer hasn't worn our customs. We're gonna wow them with some good comfort. Now, on this right side, much better medial arch, much more stably intact medial arch. We're only doing a rear foot wedge because the navicular hasn't dropped too much. And we're an F23 foot type on the right, F24 on the left. Same family, not as much deterioration or pronation. All right, so this side, just the rear foot wedge, and then the same lateral 4-foot wedge. We're gonna take these over to the grinder and get this customer rolling, baby. All right, over to the grinder. Okay. So, customer's picking these bad boys up. Left side, F24. We've got a full wrap against the side, rear foot and midfoot, full medial wedge. Navicular drop, we're doing a little bit of a cutout right here. So we're just letting that bone drop down just a little bit more. All right, now on the right side, same setup, but except with the heel, we're just doing a rear foot medial wedge, all right? That's been a wrap. Thank you guys for tuning in, and check us out next time. ChiappettaShoes.com. Ain't no better than Chiappetta. Ciao.